All right, you guys, so it is that time of the year again when we start to get enough cucumbers to do a little fermenting. I'm going to ferment up these asparagus spears. So we're going to take something like this and make it into this wonderful, cloudy, garlicky, beautiful, see all those bubbles? A ferment. You see all those bubbles going up there? It's a beautiful thing. Let's see if we can hear it. Nope. I already burped it this morning. All right, let's go get some more ingredients from outside. All right, so we're in the above ground garden beds now. We need some dill because those cucumbers, are going to become kosher dill pickles. A real kosher dill pickle. So, yeah, let's figure out what we want to snip and put in here. I'm gonna get to it. As long as we're here, let's talk about this. So you got the whole dill, the whole head up there, but you see these little offshoots, right? One there, one here. If I clip the dill here, this little shoot will make another head. That's why I clipped this one here. That will make another head. So steal that, make another head, but I'm also going to take just some of the, I don't know what you call this, ferning off and take it in the house as well. Now we're in the far field and this is a big white oak tree. This is one of those tricks that people don't often talk about when they look at fermenting or even pickling. So oak leaves have tannins in them, right? That's the stuff that makes you pucker when you bite into something. Grape leaves have tannins. Oak leaves have tannins. Bay has tannins. So we are going to use this as a secret weapon to put in our pickle, our ferment, to give it crispiness and a little extra bite. So oak, grape, bay, I'm sure there's others. If I remember, I'll put them down there. All right, you guys, so we're going to do this pretty quickly. If you want step-by-step instructions on how to do this ferment, I'm going to link two videos, one for the kosher dill pickles and one for the asparagus below. This is going to be more like a high-level overview instead of a step-by-step process, although we will hit every step here in the process of making ferment for asparagus and cucumbers. So the asparagus, I'm going to do a 5.5% brine. So of the total weight, the asparagus, the water, the garlic, anything I put in this jar, minus the jar, 5.5%, I'll figure it out using a calculator, will be salt. So we want whatever is in here to be 5.5% salt. On the kosher dill pickles, we went 4.25. This is a recipe I got from a kosher dill, from a deli in New York, and the guy there was famous for making kosher dill pickles. So those are the brine amounts, and this is how we do it. So the first thing we're going to do is process our asparagus, and for me that means snapping the bottom to figure out what's still good and what's bad. You can use a knife if you think they're all about the same. So I'm going to go through and do this really quickly, and then I'm going to dry fit it into this half-gallon jar, and we'll see how that goes. So if you're doing filling a large jar, or you're going to be anywhere for a while using this kind of a process, put the jar on the side. Put some right side up and some upside down to fill up the whole space, but it makes it a lot easier to get it in there rather than like this. Make sense? Right, so I did the dry fit. I started out with 2.2 pounds, and you can see that fills this up pretty well. So I know I have room for my dill and a few other things. So now I'm going to take this out of the jar and weigh the jar. I could have done that first. I probably should have, but I didn't. So here we go. All right, so I know now that the jar weighs 730 grams. Just making a note of it over here. Now I'm going to fill up the jar like I normally would for fermenting, which means I will put some garlic in the bottom. This is elephant garlic. Look how big these pieces are. Put garlic in. I'm going to take some of this fern, I guess it's dill fern. I also keep it in a little glass of water, just keeps it fresher. Put that in there. And now I'll put the asparagus back in. Jar is full. I'm going to go ahead and add some more dill and such at the top. I need to make sure everything in here is going to allow me to put some kind of a weight down in here. So I need to really make sure that nothing is really like above this line right here. So I see this guy is, I'm just going to pull him out and snap it off. And everything else, yeah, everything else looks fine. If I wanted to put a red pepper or hot pepper in now is when I do it. And I happen to have a jar of them from previous years of growing peppers. I've had a crappy pepper year this year, so I'm not going to see any. I'm going to put 3 different kinds of peppers in here. I just think they're pretty. Get it in there. All right, and now what we're going to do is weigh this after I add water. So I'm going to fill the jar up to this first spring, which is an inch below the top of the jar, and fill the water up to there. Then I'm going to weigh the whole thing. All right, so I have the water in here. I actually forgot the maple leaf, so I actually put actually 2.5 in here. There's one, there's another one, there's the third one. So I've got everything in here, and we're going to just make sure that everything kind of can sit below the water line. I'm going to put a little bit more water in here. All right, so now let's, oh, that's going to zero out if I do that. $25.72. So we need to subtract 730 from that. And through the magic of film, 2572 minus 730 is 1842. We're going to multiply that by the 5.5% brine amount we want for the asparagus, and we come out to 101.31. So I want 101.31 grams of salt to add into that jar. Now, why do I measure grams? Because I'm in the US and usually we do ounces, and that is because it is, oh, I need to zero that out. It's just much more accurate. Much more accurate. I always also measure my salt in a separate container because that, if I put that right into the jar, I would be way over. Well, not way over, but you know what I mean. Too much over. I mean, we're trying to be accurate. So let's be accurate. I'm going to put in 102. There we go. 102. So now how do we do this? So what I do is I'm going to pour the water, or some of it, into this jar. I'm going to add the salt in, pour some of this water in, shake, 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 and put it back in here. See, I started with some water. I'll put salt. I'll put more water. Enough to really be able to do some shaking. So now I need a lid. Shake, 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 shake. And if all of it doesn't get 100% mixed up, it's all right. It will all work out fine in the end. All right. I'm going to show some of this down here. And as usual, when I do these things, somebody always complains about my hands. I'm a worker. I work with my hands, so I've got calluses. I can't get this stuff out. unless I sand it off. So I need to take a Dremel to that and really sand it off. But my hands are as clean as my hands need to be for what I'm doing. And you're not eating it, I am. So there you go. All right. Pouring it in there. I still have a lot of salt in here. I'll just give it a little salt. I left some extra room here at the top that you can't see, just in case something like this happened. What I'm going to do is put this into the sink and top it up. So now I need to put a weight in here because I really need all this stuff that's floating on the top. Everything that I want to ferment needs to be underneath the brine level. That's why I put it up so high. I'm going to put this in the sink now, and I'll tell you why. It's because I'm going to put a weight on it. I'm going to use this cute little jar. I've got some other things fermenting. Otherwise, I have my usual fermenting jar, but I don't have it right now because it's working somewhere else. So I'm going to put this into the jar. It's going to overflow. That's okay. We're going to do that. And I could put one of these on here. Some people use these things. It's a check valve. It's a one-way valve, so you don't have to burp your jars. I used to use them. I don't anymore, primarily because I like to touch my food. I like to see my food. I like to know what's going on with my food. The other thing that I've learned is if I have a really tight seal on here, the whatever I'm fermenting tends to get effervescent, like champagne. It's really cool. So I want to touch my food. I'm going to look at it every single day. So like this one is fermenting right now. It's been fermenting for a while, and I come over, I touch the top, and it's bulging, so I burp it, and I get a look at it, and it's cool. So why am I putting an extra lid on? That's because it makes a better seal with one of these plastic tops on it. I've tried the plastic tops by themselves. They work, but I really want that to be sealed nicely. So there you go. This is how you do fermented asparagus. So every day I'm going to come at least once a day and burp this and check on it and make sure there's no mold and that everything seems to be moving right along. Something that also happens a lot with ferments, because the water line from the bottom to the top is so narrow, and once it starts fermenting and bubbling, it can overflow. So that's why I put it into a dish like this. This one's about 5 days in, and you see the color of the water, how that's changed. That is going to change as well. So anyway, if you want to see this whole product finished, I'll link that video below. I'm going to do cucumbers next. If you want to know how to do those step by step, look in the link below as well. It's the same process. I have less cucumbers. Ta-da! So I'm going to be using a quart jar instead of a half gallon. And basically, it's just exactly the same thing, except with cucumbers. There is one difference. With the cucumbers, the blossom end has to come off. There's an enzyme in there that will make the food deteriorate. If you leave that on, your cucumbers are going to be mushy. Done deal. I just take it off, just a tiny, tiny little bit, but I make sure the whole thing is off. And it doesn't matter what size it is, that whole blossom end needs to come off. This end can stay on. Some people take it off just for looks. You know, you do you, but anyway, take the blossom end off. Otherwise, step-by-step instructions below. 4.25% for this. And yeah, have fun. Let me know if you have any fermentation questions, and we'll see you later.